everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you haven't been here before, my name is Debbie and I read a lot of books. Today's book is The Last House on the Street by Diane Chamberlain. This is the front cover of the book. I read this on my Disney holiday and I had the actual book, but we left it in America. So, going off Amazon for it today. But yeah, I actually really enjoyed this book. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be, I will say that. The tagline is, "This family secret won't stay hidden forever." So I just need to find that blurb for you. Just before I go into the blurb, I just want to say there is a discrepancy between, oh actually it was on the book but it's not on here, but on the version that I had there was a discrepancy with the years that it was set based on the blurb on what was inside the book, because the blurb on the actual physical book that I had said that the present was 2020, and in the book it said 2010. I've realised that on this Amazon one it says 2010 on the blurb. There must have been a problem when they printed it. The version that me and my mum got said 2020 on the blurb and 2010 inside the book. So, a street where the neighbours are always watching. A family's secret lies behind closed doors. 2010. Grieving widow Kayla Carter moves into the beautiful home she and her husband designed along with her young daughter. But when disturbing things begin to happen, it's clear someone is sending her a warning. Who is trying to frighten her and why? 1965. Young white student Ellie Hockley joins the fight for civil rights and falls in love with a fellow activist, a black man, in a time and place where an interracial relationship must be hidden, especially from the KKK. When rumours catch fire, Ellie realises the townfolk she had trusted all her life could be the most dangerous ones of all. This was such an interesting book, and obviously there's a certain kind of main theme about it, with it being set in the southern states of America. This one is in North Carolina. I almost said North Dakota for a second there. It's North Carolina. And so you've got the 1965 and then the present. You start off by meeting Kayla. And she's an architect, and so was her husband. Her husband passed away in an accident while building their new house, which is the last house on the street. They've built their house first, and then they're building more houses on the land. But originally it was just one house on this area, which was the Hockley house, which takes you back to the 1965 story with Ellie Hockley and her family. There is a crossover, especially when Ellie turns up in the present. So at first it seems like, well, you're not completely sure what the connection is. At the beginning of the book, a woman with red hair and dark sunglasses comes into Kayla's office and threatens her, basically. She threatens Kayla and basically seems to know stuff that Kayla didn't think that anybody else knew. She knows about how her husband died and kind of threatens Kayla's daughter and basically says that they never should have built the house. That is where the warnings start. And I'll admit, I figured out who it was that came into the office fairly quickly based on what we were getting from the Ellie chapters. I did not figure out the whole twist. I just knew who it was in the office, because at first I knew it was going to be one of two people, and through thinking it through, I was just like, which one of these people makes more sense? And obviously when then Ellie turned up in the present chapters, it just drove home exactly who it was that turned up in the office, for me anyway. So if other people read the book, please let me know if you picked up on who it was that threatened Kayla. I didn't know why, and that comes into the twist, but yeah, I did figure out who threatened Kayla. I read this in one day, across a few hours, while I was in Florida, on a day when I just wasn't feeling very well. I had a bit of a cold. I still got a bit of a cold, to be honest. But yeah, I was coughing, sneezing. It was mainly, I just mainly couldn't breathe, so I was just sat up in bed reading, and I read it all in a space of about 3-4 hours. I just found it really interesting, to be honest, especially in the 65 chapters, because I'll admit, when you think of America and segregation and the civil rights movement, you do think of it as being kind of the southern states of America, and in this case it's set in North Carolina as opposed to South Carolina, and even Ellie in those chapters says, oh, it's not really happening in North Carolina, and then she finds out it is. Yeah, I just found it really interesting to see that story, and in the little afterword from the author, it said how she purposely set it in North Carolina because people weren't really aware that it was happening there as well. And a lot of Ellie's story is based on true events and real activism that was happening at the time. And yeah, I just find that really, really interesting. The fact that it has also got that mystery. There is a bit of somebody dies in 65 and it becomes a bit of a mystery, a bit of a murder mystery, as you're trying to find out what happened to this person and who was involved. And it all comes down to Ellie's relationship with her fellow activist, Wynne, who is black. But yeah, I've just found the whole concept of it really interesting. You have got that mystery there to keep you going as well. It says 496 pages in literary fiction, women's writers and fiction, contemporary fiction. But as I said, you know, you've got the history in there as well, and stuff about the civil rights movement. I think it does raise an interesting thing about that white saviour, where Ellie realises that even though she wants to help, she also can't tell their stories for them because she hasn't lived it. And yeah, I just found it a really interesting read, and I've never read anything by Diane Chamberlain before, I don't think, and so I'm very intrigued to see what her other books are like. But yeah, just having the switcheroo between the present and the past and how it all overlaps, and seeing the relationship that Ellie has with her family based on what happened in the past. And then when you do get to that moment in the present when everything starts colliding and Ellie finds out what happened the infamous night where the man that she fell in love with disappeared, and working out what happened to him, who was involved, it's quite heartbreaking. You really feel for Ellie and Wynne and everybody who was involved, and it also makes you realise just how strong a theme it is today when you realise that people who were involved in the disappearance of Wynne still had the same feelings in the present day. They still thought that Ellie brought shame onto the family, onto the town where they live, and they still say that they do exactly the same thing again. Yeah, it was really powerful, to be honest. I mean, I think we know from what's happened in the past couple of years even, because obviously the Black Lives Matter movement, I mean, it's all, you know, it's been there for a very long time, but it did become very prominent in lockdown when we were able to actually hear the voices coming through because nothing else was happening. And so we were able to really open our eyes and open our ears as to what was happening in the world and happening in America. And it feels like this book might have been born out of that a bit, to remind us that people still think like this. But yeah, it was just really thought-provoking and powerful, and the fact that I managed to read it in pretty much one sitting just tells you how good it is. To be fair, I wasn't doing anything else, but the fact that even with the strong themes through it, it was a proper page turner, and I did not want to put it down. Every time I thought about just popping it down and maybe doing something else for a bit, I was just like, no, I need to know what happens next. I just thought it was brilliant. I learned things while reading it, so it's got that educational side to it. You've got the history, you've got the present, you've got the mystery. It's just, there's just so much in there for different tastes. Yeah, so it's The Last House on the Street by Diane Chamberlain. There we go. Yeah, powerful. Thanks so much for watching. If you have read this book, please put in the comments if you've read it and what you thought about it, because I love to talk to people about the books. Obviously I try not to spoil things too much. I have seen one or two close people say, but how does it end? And I'm just like, I don't want to tell you how it ends. I think sometimes you do just need to sit, read and get that ending for yourself. If you want to Google what happens, go for it. But I'm not gonna spoil it that much. Not that much. But yeah, so thanks for watching. And don't forget to subscribe if you're not already. I will see you tomorrow with another video. Bye guys. Yeah, today's book is The Last House on the Street by Diane I can't speak. But when disturbing things begin to happen, the cat has lost his voice. You're right, boy. Harrison? Can you hear that? He lost his voice because he's been meowing so much. Are you sopping wet, boy? Yeah, he's wet. Oh.